I wanted to share with you some recent pens in my collection here. And where are they? Well, this one. This is the one that came today. And I just put a sack in it, hence my dirty fingers. And this is a Waterman late 40s era pen, I would say. It's marked rigid, but the seller described it as fine nib. So sometimes Waterman fine rigid end up being like accountant nibs. And that's what this seems to be. As you can see, there is some shading, which goes to show even when Waterman is trying hard, they can't make a nib that isn't flexible. That's rigid from Waterman's point of view. And let me just make sure that's what it says. Rigid, says it right there. Rigid. I recently, I don't know, maybe a year ago, my friend Otto in California was telling me that Waterman rigid nibs are actually kind of fun to use, and I thought he was lost his mind or something. But he's a smart man, and I figured, well, let me try it out. So I got some of my pens out, and though I don't know whether any of them actually had rigid nibs in them, because normally I don't cotton to those things, I did try one or two, and they actually were kind of fun. And why were they fun? Why is this? Why am I saying this is fun when I could be doing that? I mean, this is 3 times as much fun if thickness equals fun, variety equals fun. But what you have in this is it's very, very sturdy, and I can write an angry letter with this pen without worry of me breaking the nib as I get angrier and angrier. Whereas if I was using the one I just showed you and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, I might press down too hard and break it. Now that, in all of the years I've been doing this, and all of the pens I've owned and tried and sold and bought and sold and sold and bought, and I think I maybe have broken 5 pens that way. And it wasn't so much my pressing down too hard. There was one that had there was a little unseen blemish on the paper, and I was going this way, and the nib iridium, actually it was some other part of the pen that cracked, and that made me very unhappy. And I have broken pens that have fallen on the floor. Yes, that happens. But in terms of pressing down, I certainly, yes, a pen that has a crack, the crack might get bigger. But generally, I don't press down too hard on a pen that isn't already damaged. That would break the pen. I have experienced enough fingers that they know when to stop pressing down. So I think I could write that angry letter using this pen, and because it's also very fine, I can write it on the back of a postcard. Dear Senator, dear Representative, what the hell are you allowing to happen to this country. You know, I could write that letter with this pen without I get angry just thinking about it. So anyway, I was very happy with this pen. It's, as you can see, it's black. And if this was on a table at a pen show, no one other than me might even bother to touch it. They'll look at the pretty pens, the ones with the gold filigree on it, or the silver filigree, or the bigger pens, or the pens with bright colors. The black pen might be ignored. And there's something quite nice about this little black pen. It's like the evening jacket you wear with your black tie. You know, you don't want to compete with the dame in her folderol and her finery and her bejewelment. You're supposed to just sort of disappear in the distance. And that's what this pen does. It disappears in the distance. And it's elegant because of that, I think. Basic black. Would I like this? Would I prefer it if it had silver trim, nickel trim? I don't think so. I think the gold, in this case, the gold works well with the black. What do you think? Write your answers below. Yep. Rigid, Waterman Rigid. No one would say that this is flexible, but, you know, pen companies that know how to do rigid are Schaefer. 9/10 of any nib that they put on a pen was rigid and has very little flexibility. But this one does. This one has some give to it. Yay, Waterman. Ta-da. This is not a Waterman. This is a wall pen with a big moppy nib, making all sorts of racket. This is the one that if I had to imitate our president's signature, I could use this pen. Don't get me started. I did get this pen recently, and as you can see, it has issues. And I don't think those issues were caused by my unpacking of it. The issue to the nib was a Waterman nib, and the photographs of it were a lot better than I remember them being, because I could see that it was all screwed up on the photographs after the fact. I evidently didn't look at it closely enough, and this nib, I had great plans for this nib, but it has damage to it, and I don't know whether it's damage that I can fix. It had a pliers attack it at the end. I'll show you what the nib sort of looks like here. The breather hole is here, and it comes up here, and then just at the end there's little plier marks here, whatever. And just at the end you have a little bit of splits going on there. And when you have the splits going on like this on the side view, it's easy to push this one down, and well, it's not easy, but it's doable to push that down and up. When they're split like this, it's pretty tough getting them to get back together again. So consequently, this pen, unless I can fix it, it's always going to skip. And this had some stress put on it. I think it also looks like it's bent. You know, sort of here, there's a little bit of a bend going on. So this could have hit the floor at 32 feet per second squared and been bent, and someone could have, trying to repair it, got out their pliers and tried to fix it and didn't really do as good a job as I would have hoped they would do. Oh God, it just looks, it's so sad. Looks like they even tried to the pliers on the side and sort of tweak them together, which, yes, I've done. Should I see if I can make this work any better than it does? I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this out. This thing, I was buying it for the nib. I didn't care about the holder. Can I take this one out of here? Just to see. Don't do this at home, whatever you do. You know, see, this is a later era pen, and their nibs are a little bit smaller. This era, I found the pens from this era that are a little tiny bit smaller actually fit in Nathan Tardif's Boston Safety Pen. Now that just fell right out like there was no problem. Ugh, God, it's just everything about it is hurting my ears. So yes, this needs to be fixed. And I don't know whether I can. I may have just completely wasted my money on that one. It is not easy buying pens on the interweb without seeing them in the flesh. Let me just look under the loop again on this thing. I'm going to use a better loop here. See if this can give me a better look. See. Yeah, that's what it does right at the very tip. You know, if this ends up breaking in my attempt to repair it, you know, there could be a nib smith that could just cut it off and make a nice stub out of it. But don't go away. Look at me. You can't take me anywhere. Luckily, you can't take me anywhere because we're stuck here. Yep, you got that right. It's nib burnishing time. Now somewhere here are the cutest little nib pliers. Don't tell me I can't find them when I need to. Okay, and they're not there. Yes, they are, right here. These are so cute. So, for one thing, I'm going to see if I can, by making that uphill bend, by making that go away with this burnisher here. See if I can bend it. Why is that? This is what I want. So what I'm doing is this trough in this section block is tapered, and a nib will fit somewhere in this taper nicely, and then you can press down on your burnisher and try to shape. It still is going uphill. Now sometimes by doing this reshaping, the little misalignment at the very tip might rectify itself. Sometimes. You know, my eyes are screwed up. Whoever tried to fix this thing, they used pliers that are used to, like, change the carburetor on the Queen Mary or something. They're just, there's big nasty teeth marks just on the last 1/8 of an inch of the nib here. And well, believe it or not, I don't know why you would not believe it, it seems to be getting better. The gap seems to be lessening. It also was sort of hard to tell whether there's really any iridium. Well, there's some iridium, but whether there's enough to even make a make it work here. God, it's just so awful. Yeah, I know. I have nibs that I've tried to repair that look a lot worse than this, so I can't completely blame whoever it was that tried to fix it, that they did a crappy job. Can I find and I can put this in? What is this thing? Purple. This is a Waterman purple nibs. This must be a 14. Purple was their firm. See, this is boring. This kind of nib, this is pretending to be a Schaefer, because it doesn't have any subtlety to it. It's just awful. I don't want to say it's not just awful. What about this one? What's up with this one? See, this also has had damage to it. I don't think I was responsible for. Why is this pen in my drawer? I wonder. Huh. Well, nib, you're coming out. And this nib is going in. And we're just going to see how this works. This feed is shoved in too far for this nib. Well, it works better. I'm going to put this one back. Why is this pen in here? doesn't have a cap, as you can see. See, this is a accountant nib. It says accountant on it. And this is very similar to the nib that I just got in the black pen. So let's see. It's still scratchy. It's very springy, though. I'll give it that. Now, let me just look at this under the loop again, just to see what the heck is going on here. Whether there's iridium in them there hills anyway. Loop. Light. Well, there's silver. God, it's just so hacked up. It's so beat up on the end there that I don't know if any amount of... I mean, this is one of the rare pens that I would say if I got the two tines together at the end and I made it look nice everywhere else, as nice as it can be, I would say, okay, here on this one nib, of all of the thousands of nibs I have, I'm allowed to use nib smoothing paper, which I only use. I never, ever, ever use it if it's merely scratchy, because scratchiness is good. But if it's actually tearing the paper, which I think this was kind of doing, and because it had been so manhandled or woman-handled, I don't know who handled it brutishly, what gender that person was, but because it was so mistreated in its attempt to repair it, that damage could have been done to the end, which smoothing might help. Well, it's still... God, why did they do this? It's so sad. Okay, see what I'm doing? I can't even see what I'm doing because my eyes are so shitty. But what I'm doing here is I'm willing, with all of the will in my being, I'm trying to sort of pretend, I don't know if I'm actually doing it, but I'm trying to pretend I'm grabbing clearly I'm grabbing both tines, but I'm trying to figure out a way to, maybe by bending it like this, I can make them work. Well, it got better. Okay, I'll try some more here. Now here I'm really applying a lot of pressure too, so I might be, the nib, they might have been slightly like this, the two halves might not have been lined up, but now I'm really pushing them together. So that little gap between the, oh God, it's still there. It's the one on the right here, this side, that just goes a little bit to the right. Sometimes be by doing this. I'm spreading them, and I'm trying to grab just the right tine. I think I made it worse. I made it worse. Now what's the other tine? I did this recently in another video. I'm remembering this is all coming back to me when there was another pen that had damage similar to this, where the tines had a split at the end like that. And I did what I'm doing now, and I made it a lot better. I made it good enough. It looked like shit, but it worked. And if any of you have ever seen me in real life, you know that physical appearance is not important. No, it's still a little bit apart, but it's so good. God, I'm going to try to do a drawing of what this looks like in more detail. So this is the ideal pen tip. Smooth line in the middle. They meet at the front. Well, this one, there's all these little jagged things happening over here, and marks of pliers and stuff like that going on in here, and just this jaggedy end. And if I can get the points together, those little jaggedy bits are not going to bother me, because my eyes are so bad I would hardly see them. But I know they're there. Well, that looks better. That little bit at the end, again, I'm zooming in, the close-up of the end, it's like that. That little tiny distance right there, the ink is never going to get all the way to the paper. If you can somehow get it started, it'll be fine for a little bit, but every once in a while it's going to run dry. And it needs to be, the little tip has to be together in order for it to work. Okay, what happened to my barrel I'm putting this in? No. I am just butterfingers today. Try this out. Skip. It's really quite springy. It's really quite springy though. And it's skipping a little bit because I think it's not put in. Let me see if I can, let me put it in a proper Waterman. Is that sticking out enough? This is another accountant nib, I think. Come on, get out of there. Yeah, it's scratchy. It's skippy. One of the reasons that it feels scratchy is, of course, because of that gap. You've got two halves of the hemisphere of the iridium with a gap in between, and the gap is, those two halves are sharp when they're apart like this. There's going to be this edge and this edge that are hitting the paper and making it scratch when you go to this, especially in a side stroke. So they really need to be together to keep that from happening. I'll try it one more time, and if I break it, I break it. God, they are apart, and they're both apart. This very tip needs to go that way, and that very tip needs to go this way, is what they need to do. So I'm going to spread them apart like this. I don't know if you can see. I'm spreading them apart. I'm going to try to just take the very tip of that one and bend it in. Did it work? Hard to tell. Seems to be better. Take it out again and try it. If this doesn't work out, don't do any of what I did yourself. Feels better, and it writes better, so I fixed it. Yay. I'll leave it at that. I'll try to find a nice nib, a nice pen to put it in, and I'll try it for real. A pen that has a sack and a cap rather than a desk pen. These desk pens that I have up here, I don't have bases for, but when I'm doing certain kinds of drawings at my desk where I don't need to put it in my pocket, it's nice having a desk pen sometimes because I can hold it further back like I'm doing here, and I can really see the drawing I'm doing. It's good for sketching, not really for fine rendering, but for sketching it's kind of nice. I did get this pen. Is this the one I got in the mail? No. I think I might have gotten this one in the mail the other day. I think so. Yeah. This one I got from the same seller that sold me the black pen that I just showed you at the beginning of this thing. And a desk pen without the desk. I don't know if it's this one though, come to think of it. I have to look at wasn't this one. I'm trying to remember if it had this kind of a lever or that kind of a lever. And I'll look at the picture in the eBay selling thing just to see. I think it might be this one. I remember that it worked. The sack worked. And the sack, it works to a degree. It probably needs to be replaced, but I saw that it could push air in and out. But it needs to be replaced. This one's really quite lovely. Again, I don't know if it was this one that I bought. But this one has little tiny vertical ridges that I didn't even notice before. See how fun it is to, I don't know, there you go, you can see them, little vertical lines. Really quite lovely. And I never ever noticed that. And it might be because I didn't really look at the pen very much when I unpacked it. Or it might be that this wasn't the pen at all and it was a different pen. And I just had this for years and I never noticed. Do I have another? Did I put it here? No. Shit. Huh. This one doesn't have those lines. This one doesn't. This one doesn't. So, what do you know? Well, who knows? Who knows? The reason, God damn it, the reason that I have no idea what's going on here is I have too many pens. Here, I've said it. I have too many pens. Yeah, I think this was the pen because it had a slightly sturdier nib. I sort of was hoping it was going to be more flexible, and it wasn't. So I think that's the pen. Well, anyway, yes. So what do? I have to find a pen to put this in. Holder to put this in and try it out and see how well it writes. If I fixed it enough to work. And if I did, yay. I get to wash my hands now. Goodbye.